Hello everyone, and I hope this video finds you well. I'm going to go over again the review for tomorrow's test. In this question here, you're asked to figure out the missing angles by these two parallel lines. So since we're given this line is parallel to this blue line there, you're going to notice that we create 8 angles that are going to be congruent. Half of those are going to be congruent to each other. So here, this set of 4 angles, 1, 2, 3, 4, correspond to these same 4 angles right there, meaning that they're going to have the same angle measurement. Now, if we know that the angle angle 1 is 23, so this angle 1 is 23, then that means that angle 3, because it's on the vertical side of it, is also going to be 23 degrees. And since these 4 angles up top correspond to the exact same 4 angles here, that means that this angle, which is on the top left side, like this one up here among the 4, is also going to be 23 degrees. And because 7 is across from it, that's going to be 27 degrees. So angle 3, angle 5, angle 7, and of course angle 1 all measure 23 degrees. Now, to figure out the measurement of this other angle here, angle 2, 4, 6, and 8, well, those angles are going to, so all these angles, angle 1, angle 3, angle 5, and angle 7 are all equal to each other, which now means that angle 2, angle 4, angle 6, and angle 8 are also all equal. And now to figure out the measurement of these, and these are all 23 degrees. And to figure out the measurement of these angles, well, since we have a straight line among these two, angle 1 and angle 2, that creates again the straight line, those two angles that are adjacent and are part of a linear pair, these two have to add up to 180 degrees. So this 23 degree angle plus the measurement of whatever this is right here, I'll put a question mark there, that has to equal to 180. So in an equation, it would look like this. If I replace that question mark with a variable x, I could move this to this side, and subtracting 23 from the 180, I get a total of 157. So this angle measurement equals 157, and because angle 2 is across from it, angle 2 is also going to measure 157, and since 2 and 6 are corresponding, since angle 2 is on the top right hand corner, just like angle 2 here, up here, okay, that means that that one is also going to be 157, and angle 8, because it's across angle 6, is also going to be 157. So you see all those angles equal to 157. So this is 157, 157, 157, and 157. Now let's look at the next example. So this idea again is corresponding to the same concept as before, that all the vertical angles and the corresponding angles are going to be congruent. So if I label this again, just like the last one, let me do it in blue, 1, 2, 3, 4, these angles down here are going to again be the same 4 angles. So if I use the same number, 1, 2, 3, and 4 in that order, okay, notice that angle 1 and angle 3 are equal to each other because they are across from each other. Angle 1 and angle 3 are equal to each other. So this angle here, because it's in the exact same position as the top angle in the top left-hand corner, that means that this angle 1 has the exact same measurement as this one. And since these angles are across from each other, that means this angle in blue equals to this angle up here in yellow. So the relationship between this yellow one and the blue one is that they're equal to each other. So let me erase that so I could see that. So the way we're going to solve this and figure out the value of x is by getting 9x plus 37 and equaling it to 14x minus 23. Now there's an easier way of looking at this and considering this if they're going to equal. Simply look at the angle. Notice that this angle here, I'll highlight it in red, this angle right here is an obtuse angle. No, remember that 90 degrees makes a straight right angle right there. And this angle, if I move it, let me erase all this out of the way, and I focus on this angle here, this is an obtuse angle. Now if I compare it with this angle up here, if I compare it with that angle up there, let me move it over here and let me rotate it. Look, it's the exact same angle. So this is another way, just by visually looking at it and seeing that they're both obtuse angles, that means that they have to be congruent. So you don't have to really focus on the definition and the relationship between the angles, just by visualizing and literally just seeing that they're the exact same size, the same, again, angle, that they have to be congruent. So the way we would set up this equation and solve this equation is by getting them equal to each other and then using our technique to solving equations. Letters to the left, the numbers to the right. So 9x, moving the 14 to this side makes a negative 14. Moving the 37 over here to the equal sign, that's going to make a negative 37. And I bring down the negative 23. Now 9 minus 14, that gives us a total of negative 5x. And this is a total of negative 60. We divide both sides by negative 5, and x equals 12. And even though I didn't show it, I used, again, my calculator just to calculate this. 9 minus 14 gives us negative 5. And negative 27 minus 23 equals negative 60. So our solution here is that x equals 12. For this example, let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay. Well, we see again the same situation of parallel lines. And if I label them 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to see that this angle here is in position 1. So up here, it would be in that position. Well, angle 1 and, sorry, I meant to write this one backwards. I should write these backwards. 3 and 4, 3 and 4. Like last time, I would see that angle 1 has to equal to angle 3, and angle 2 equals to angle 4 because they're across from each other. So the idea is to look at the angle from the bottom one and see how it corresponds to the top one. So since it's in the exact same position as angle 1 up here, that means that this angle 1 up here is also 9x minus 33. And now we can look at the relationship between angle 1 and angle 3 down up here. Well, the relationship between these two angles up here is that they are part of a linear pair. They make a straight line. These two make this straight line there. So they're not congruent. They're going to be supplementary. 9x minus 33 adds up with 5x plus 3, and that equals to a total of 180 degrees. And visually, you could see this. Okay, you can see that relationship. look, if I draw this angle right here, and I draw the angle of 5x plus 3, this angle right there, you should be able to tell, look, they are not the same. And since they're not the same, they're not going to equal to each other like the previous example. So the only other option, if they're not congruent, is that they're supplementary, that they have to add up to 180 degrees. So that's how you'll set up either of the two questions for tomorrow. You'll either have to equal them to each other, because I'm going to give you, again, congruent angles, or I'm going to give you supplementary angles. So you could also think about it like this and use this technique in order to determine what you should do. Now, to solve this equation, again, letters to the left, numbers to the right. So I need to move both this and the 3 to the right side of the equation. The 9x and the 5x are going to stay on the left side of the equation, and 180 is on the right side already, but moving the 33 over makes it positive 33, and moving this 3 over makes it negative 3. So we end up with 14x, and 180 plus 33 minus 3, that's 210. We divide both sides by 14, and we get our answer of 15. So x equals 15. Now for this example, we need to determine the slopes of these two lines. So we're going to create a t-chart for line 1, which connects points J and K. So the x and y value of J is 1 and 9. The x and y value of K is 7 and 4. And to get the slope, we're going to subtract 4 by 9, and we're going to subtract 7 by 1. This is going to give us a total of negative 5 over 9. And again, I just used my calculator for this. So the slope of the first line is 5 over 9. Now to get the slope of the second line of line 2, so this line, I'm just going to, again, organize my points using a t-chart. And my slope would be 1 minus 13, and subtracting this way, negative 2 minus 8. This equals to 6 over 5. And since the two slopes are not equal, then there is no relationship. We're going to select neither from the drop-down menu. So that would be the answer for this one. Now for this example, we need to again determine what the slopes are in order to determine the relationships of the line. Now we have to be able to recognize again the formats that our two equations are written in. The one on the left is written as ax plus by equals c, and the one on the right is in the format of y equals mx plus b. So for this second line, this is our second one, and this is the first line. The slope of our second line, so the slope of the second line is negative 2. So here, our answer is going to be negative 2. And to get the slope of the first line, the one in blue, because it's in this format, I have to get the opposite of the a term and divide it by the b term to get the slope. Since our a term is 10, the opposite of a positive 10 is negative 10, and we're going to divide it by this term here, the 5, the b term, which is the 5, and we also end up with negative 2. And since these two slopes are the same, then your answer is parallel. For this example, we want to write the equation in slope-intercept form that passes through this point and has this slope. So we start by using this formula, okay? And we're going to use that the m value, our slope is -2, the x1 value is -7, and the y1 value is 13. And we're going to substitute in those values into the corresponding places. So for m, I'm going to plug in that number. For x1, I'm going to plug in that number. And for y1, I'm going to plug in that number into that position there. So let's substitute. So we have y minus a positive 13. We have our m of -2 and x minus a -2. Since we are subtracting, this is very important. Since we are subtracting a negative, we're not going to write it like that. We're going to write it instead as simply plus. So anytime I'm plugging in a negative value, I have to write this as plus because subtracting a negative is the equivalency of that. Now we're going to write in our equation again in slope-intercept form. That format, remember, is y equals mx plus b. So here I need to solve it. I need to simplify it. So the first step to simplify is to distribute. We're going to multiply -2 into the parentheses. So we have y minus 13, multiply the -2 gives us -2x, and -2 times +2, that's -4. We're going to now move the 13 to the other side. So this 13 needs to move over here, changing it from negative to positive 13, and that eliminates from there. So now on the left side, we only have the value of y. Our slope of -2x comes down, and we will simplify this expression here by adding a -14 with a positive 13, with a positive 13, which equals to a total of 9. So the equation would be the entire thing, y equals -2x plus 9. I would have to write all of that. And that's our answer. For this example, they don't give me the slope, so the first thing I need to do is calculate the slope. So using a table, x, y, -5, -11, -2, +1, I'm going to get my m by doing 1 minus -11 and -2 minus -5, which is going to end up equaling to a total of 4. So in the formula, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We're going to write it in, and on this one, we're not going to write it in slope-intercept form for tomorrow. We're going to write it again in this point slope formula. So you just need to plug in the numbers here. So we're going to make this x1, our m value is 4, our x1 will be -5, and our y1 will end up being -11. So y minus our y value of -11. So remember, since we're subtracting a -11, this number right here is negative. Sorry, highlighter. This number right here is negative. That means over here is going to be plus 11. Our m is 4, and x minus, again, a -5. Since we're subtracting a -5, we change that to +5. And for this example tomorrow, okay, when I say point slope, you only have to write that much. You won't have to actually fill it out and like simplify it. So this would be good enough. And now for our last two problems. For problem number 8, here we are going to actually simplify this, and we are going to write the entire thing in slope-intercept form. So our x1 is -6, our y1 is -1. Now, when they want us to be perpendicular, the m that they gave us here is the same m we're going to use. So we're going to keep this m. And since this number is -2/3, that's the m that we want because our slopes have to be the same. M needs to be the same. So we have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. We're going to plug in those values. So y minus -1, that changes it to +1. Our m is -2/3. And x minus -6 is +6. And then we do the same two steps. We first distribute. -2/3x. And this becomes -4. And then move and our second step is to move this value. And that's going to change it from +1 to -1. So we're going to simplify that part right here, okay? So this is y -2/3x, and that part that I've highlighted in green, -4 minus 1, that gives us a total of -5. So this is our answer. And up here, we're going to write the entire thing. Y, let me do it in black. Y equals -2/3x minus 5. And then finally, for the last example. Our last example, they give us the same information. They're going to give us an x1 and y1, but the point, our x1 is -2, our y1 is -11, but our slope needs to be perpendicular. Here, the m is -1/4, but not the same slope, not the same m. So the m we're going to need to use is not going to be this one. What we need to do is get the opposite of this. So we're going to make it positive, and we have to flip it, okay? So we need to flip those values, so make it 4/1, which is just 4, and change the sign from a negative number to a positive number. So we always need to do that with perpendicular. Change the sign from negative to positive, or if it was positive, I would change it to negative. But since it's negative, I'm going to change it to positive, and then I flip it. And since this is 1/4, 4/1 is really the same thing as just 4. And now plugging it into our formula, our y1 value is -11, so +11. Our m is 4. And our x1 value is -2. So x plus 2. And then the same two steps. We distribute. And we move the 11 to this side, which is going to be a total of -3. Solution here is y equals 4x minus 3. So that's what we're going to write in our answer box, the entire equation. Okay, well, that concludes a little review for your test. If you have any questions, please send me a message through email or through Parent Square. I appreciate you watching, and I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.